Welcome back to Danny Rants. Today we have another special guest because every week we have a special guest because this is a special show. So I have across from me, Yo Mafia, one of Australia's most famous R&B DJs, I think. She may agree or she may not. I'd love for her to introduce herself. So Mafia, as we call you, we take the Yo out. We call you by your last name. I guess it's like a secondary nickname.
I love that because not many people do. They're like, hey, Yo. And I'm like, no, it's Mafia. But anyway, all good. How are you?
I'm good, man. Thank you so much for coming up here.
Mate, I'm so stoked. This is awesome.
So firstly, I guess for anyone who doesn't know who you are, right?
Yeah.
Can you run us through like a little bit of an introduction of what you've sort of done, you know, a brief of the last 20 years, and then we'll kind of dive in a little bit more like how you started, what got you there and everything else.
I think most people know me from R&B Fridays, also known as Fridays Live now. So that was like in 2018. I got asked to come on board for that, and that kind of just skyrocketed my career. Before that, I was probably in every club around Melbourne at least like 8 times a week, just DJing and just throwing party jams and being over the top. So an entertainer, I guess, like more than just DJing. I was always kind of bringing the party, bringing a show behind the decks because I come from an acting background. So I was doing a lot of that. So people probably see me somewhere at a gig somewhere because I've lost count of how many gigs I've actually done. It's just out of control. So yeah, I think people know me from that. I'm not sure. And obviously I was a big sneakerhead. Used to work for a sneaker magazine and a lot of people knew me from that kind of culture as well.
What sneaker mag were you working for?
Sneaker Freaker magazine.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
How'd you get into that?
So obviously I was a big sneakerhead from when I was about 13 and pretty anomaly for a girl to be into that. And I always wanted to be like my brothers who had shit tons of sneakers. So I was like, I want to wear them. I want to have that. And my mum was always so staunch against it because I was the only girl, Greek girl, growing up in a family, very traditional. No, you're not wearing sneakers. So of course, that's all I wanted to do was wear sneakers. So once I left home and came to Melbourne to go to VCA at the College of the Arts, I met a friend of mine who was really into sneakers and he had like maybe 5 or 6 pairs and I went, I'm going to have like 20 pairs. I want to up the ante. Always up in the ante with the dudes too. For some reason, always with the dudes. So I started buying a lot of sneakers and then I think people just kind of knew me around the block for getting into the kicks and stuff. And then I got offered a job with a guy who had it was about to go online, like a collector business. And I hit up Woody at Sneaker Freaker, who ended up being quite a good friend of mine at the time. I said, what do you reckon about this guy? And he goes, mate, he's shit, come and work for me. And I said, well, I'm DJing too, I don't want to work full time. He goes, come work for me 3 days a week, let's go. So I jumped on board and it was just when everything was starting to go online, created the website with him and did all the online content. So I was a content creator before it was actually a thing. This was probably 2007. So I learned how to basically, talk about sneakers all day, interview people, do a lot of like photography. I learned pretty much got a journalism degree in 5 years from this job. Yeah.
That's mad.
Yeah, it was sick. It was sick.
So starting back before that, like where did you grow up? What got you into music and what made you decide to make the move to Melbourne in the first place?
Well, I'm from Adelaide. So I was born in Adelaide in 73, the year of hip hop. So I like to say that because I'm not an ageist. We love age, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I grew up in Adelaide. My parents were staunchly into like Commodores and funk and soul. Was always playing in the house, music, record players. I stole a lot of those records when I moved out. Kind of that was what did it for me. And then my brothers got into hip hop. I started getting into hip hop. And then the boys, because I grew up with a lot of boys in my neighborhood and they all started getting into breakdancing. So I was like, I'm going to become a breakdancer now. And so it just kind of on-flowed from there. And then I got into the College of the Arts in Melbourne, moved to Melbourne and kind of put the career in music on hold, like wanting to, get into music. I really was very staunchly wanting to be an actor. And that kind of panned out for a little bit until I got a record store job and then got invited to DJ at a store and realized, I can be on stage and act and like play records. Like this is the two worlds colliding. So that's kind of where it took out for me.
So going like Adelaide, right? I'm thinking like 73 Adelaide. Even now, it's like still, some people, especially Melburnians, would kind of call it a country town in a sense.
It's backwards, yeah. It's very backwards.
Yeah, you said it, not me. But what was it like being kind of involved in hip hop culture, sneakers, breakdancing in a and having a Greek background in a country town? Like, what was that like?
It was pretty damn hard. Like, I got a lot of looks, especially like I was so into TLC and like what they wore as, because I was very androgynous even back then. And so I get a lot of looks down the street all the time. Like, but I'm used to that. That's my whole life has been like that. Because I've always been a bit different, just, walk to my own beat, whatever. So it was kind of hard. My mum actually kind of penned it the best when she said, you were a square peg in a round hole. You couldn't stay in Adelaide. There was never going to be anything for me there. So when I got into the College of Arts in Melbourne, I jumped on the chance. And it was actually like a fight with my mum and dad to say if I could come. Greek background, youngest daughter, only daughter. So, you know, they kind of came through in the end, thank God. Because, yeah, it's quite stifling there. You know, it's funny because I'm going back this year to do the Fringe for the first time in 25 years. I have not lived in Adelaide for like 40 years, I guess. Yeah.
And you don't go back often?
I do. I go back maybe once a year. I've gone back more recently because unfortunately my mum passed away this year, or last year. So I have been going back a bit more. And I think as you get older, you get a little bit more appreciation for the slower pace.
Yeah, I get
you know what I
for
mean?
sure.
You know, and it's nice to go there and have a bit of anonymity and just go there because I've rarely DJ'd in Adelaide.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually somewhere that I kind of was, you know, ever booked. It was more Sydney, Brisbane, and then whatever. But like, so it was nice. It's nice to go back and just chill.
It's an interesting thing, like you talking about that, it sort of triggered a memory for me. So I
Yeah.
grew up in a country town too.
Yeah.
And I remember like living there and same thing, like square peg in a
Round hole.
Round hole.
Yeah.
And it was just a fashion. Like, you know, like, back then everyone was wearing Billabong, Rip Curl, whatever. And I was buying stuff from like thrift stores that were like 90s throwbacks and
Yes.
weird t-shirts and dyeing my hair and doing whatever. And I just was doing my own thing. And it wasn't that I stood out, I didn't get bullied or anything like that, but it was just like, I just didn't fit in properly, if that makes sense.
Never did. Yeah, I understand. And I used to try and cornrow my hair. You know, it was this black, you know, straight hair, and I was just trying to be something I wasn't. But, you know, and still, I never cared. Or I'd like put the bandana on the front, and try and look like Tupac. Like, come on. But like, I didn't care. Like, you know, because I was so invested in being part of the culture that was just so new there for us too. Because we didn't really have the kind of, you know, access to it that Melbourne even had. You know, we were so far behind. You know, so even like when I did come to Melbourne and started going to clubs here, I never heard hip hop before, like in clubs. Like, it was never played anywhere in Adelaide, which has changed now, obviously, but it was really strange. Even when I was working in Melbourne, like when I first started working, I got a job in a record store and I wasn't allowed to play hip hop in the store because it wasn't shop friendly. And it was so weird because, you know, 10 years later, I'm going on tour with these guys. And actually the chick that was my manager at the shop was also a tour manager for Naughty by Nature. I'm like, remember you used to tell me that it wasn't shop friendly and now look at you? She goes, yeah, things have changed, man. Things have changed, you know, because it seemed like everything that I was into was taboo.
Yeah.
You know, being gay, being into hip hop, being into that kind of fashion. And I just never understood why it was a problem.
Yeah, getcha.
Never.
Yeah, I can concur.
Yeah.
Like, and like I remember dyeing my hair, but like you get comments and shit, but I never
Yeah.
cared. Yeah,
Don't
like
care.
and then I sort of moved back to Melbourne. I remember my sister, she still lives in the country. And then when I moved to Melbourne, she lived there too, and she went straight back to bush.
Right.
And I was like, I can't go back there. I was like, I'm too. these are my people.
These are your
like,
people, right?
Yeah, I feel I can be outrageous and do whatever I want, and no one cares. You know.
I mean, the first time a friend of mine took me to a gay club in Melbourne, I was just like, oh my God, I get it. I'm
Yep.
finally home. Like, this is where I belong. And which is really weird because even then, like the gay culture in Melbourne back in, we're talking like early 90s, wasn't no R&B and hip hop playing, which is the music that I loved. So I was going there more for like just being around the people I loved, but I didn't hear the music I loved. So I would go to those hip hop clubs and it was so misogynistic. There was so many dudes around. And again, I felt like always the only chick, you know, but I never got treated like the only chick, obviously because I, you know, get confused for a guy a lot too, which baffles me because, hello. But you know what I mean? So it's been a very strange trajectory in my career and my life to kind of, you know, because people always ask, well, how do you feel about being a female in this? I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. Which is probably why my name's Mafia too. You know, it's non-gender specific, you know, and it kind of has a connotation of being tough and which I am totally not. Don't tell anyone.
It's funny because I actually asked that question to Sunshine recently, and she was like, "Oh, I just never thought about it." So you said the exact same thing. It was just
Yeah.
like I was doing my thing. I love this, and I just went forward with it.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a thing. And like now people ask it, but it was like at the time, you know, in hindsight I can think about it, but it was
Sure.
just me being me. You know, like
Absolutely. And, you know, I got a lot of pushback from my family. Like my mum could never deal with the fact that I dressed like a boy, that, you know, I wanted to be a DJ. I didn't want a normal career or be an actor. I think in the end, obviously, she was very proud of me and was really excited by the fact that I was different because deep down so was she. But she couldn't be in her era of life. But for me, I kind of just always ignored it, I guess, which I think is kind of hard because, you know, and it's like now with online comments and stuff like that, you just, for some reason, if you're kind of proud of what you do and you're kind of really solid in who you are, it doesn't affect you. You know what I mean? But we're all human. So, I mean, everyone's got a say in shit, right?
It will be pretty fucking boring if everyone was the same.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So how old were you when you actually moved to Melbourne?
I was 17 going on 18.
Yeah, wow.
So
young
I was
as.
like the youngest person ever to get into the Victorian College of the Arts, and I hadn't even turned 18. So by the time I started, I think I was just 18, but I was a kid. And the person that was like the next age from me was like 25. So no one wanted to borrow me. So it was a very lonely first year for me in that school.
And where were you living?
I was living in Seddon with my auntie. I was forced to live with my grandparents, not my grandparents. They were a lot older than me. So my parents' cousins, because it was kind of like the stepping stone to come to Melbourne, was like,
Yeah, okay, get you.
you got to live with family still.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Especially
Keep tabs
17.
on.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And like, so why, like when you were growing up, was there some sort of, did you just kind of like randomly apply, or like, what was the process to actually getting
I've
into?
always wanted to be an actor. Since I was born, I was like, I want to be an actor. That's all I want to do. And not for fame or anything like that. I just wanted to be on stage. Mum took me to a lot of shows, and I was like, how do you get in that? How do you do that? And then I saw TV shows, and I was obviously like, I want to do that, but that's never going to happen. Neighbours, stuff like that, was never going to hire me. So I got an opportunity out of high school. I think we just had to apply. I applied. I was like very young the first year I applied. They're like, come back next year, you're too young. And so I went back the next year, and yeah, they took me, and I was like, what? Well, I'll tell you a funny story. I don't know if I should tell it, but
Nah, hit me.
Here we go. All right, get comfy. So one of the things they make you do is you have to do 2 monologues, and one of them is like a Shakespearean piece, and one of them is a monologue of your choice, just to see your range, obviously. And then they ask you, if you get past the first round, they'll go, all right, we want you to do it in this way, a different way, right? So do the same monologue, but now I want you to do it. We're going to put a guy in the center of the room, and I want you to do it, but like make love to him, or like, you know, come on to him. So I pretty much full on gave this guy a hand job. How did I know how to do that? I don't know. So I think they were just like, this girl has no shame. And the poor guy that was sitting there having to just sit there while I did this, I believe that's what got me in.
Nice.
A hand job. You know, they say casting couch, right? So who knows? I mean, just like those are the kind of shit things, those were the things I would do as a kid, you know, just no boundaries and just not knowing that it wasn't, you know, well, acting is all about that anyway.
So when you were growing up, right, like obviously you've gone on to live this illustrious
Oh, we
career.
don't talk about the hand job anymore? Okay, great.
We could go back to it.
No,
Nah.
that's fine.
So you've gone on to this illustrious career, you know, you've done all these achievements, which we're going to get to.
Yeah.
But when you were growing up, did you have this idea that that was going to be your life? Like, or did you feel like there was more to it for you, or were you just sort of just trying to have a crack to see if it would work?
No, I always believed in it. I always believed that I was going to have like this kind of life where I always wanted to be kind of, it's weird to say, but infamous, but meaning like be famous, but not be famous for something, but be known for myself and doing something that like is just me and my personality, I guess, not for anything in particular. So I would always have these dreams where I'd like wake up in my dreams would be like going to TV shows or whatever, and people would know who I was, like in the show. They'd be like, "Hey, Maria," you know, my real name, Maria, blah, blah, whatever, and like, you know, to be like Roseanne or John Stamos or someone like that from back when I used to watch TV. And that used to baffle me that I was so like, just so sure that that would happen. And that I would be able to be like recognized by these people that I thought were famous. And then that kind of is what happened. I don't want to ever reach that level. Like, I think that's just too beyond, right? But I don't mind being known in those circles, you know, and just kind of be at a level where I'm known enough for, I don't know, just being me, I guess, but not, you know, no, I don't know. Do you want to be ultra famous? I don't know.
It's a weird thing. Like the reason why I asked that question,
because you're going there, right? It's getting there.
It's a weird. Oh, thank you. But it's a weird question. The reason why I asked you is that like it's a constant theme, right? So I keep talking to people, and I've never asked it as directly, but people always be like, you know, when I started, I just had this uncanny belief that this was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so then you were sort of talking about, I want to be an actor. You're going to do this. You're going to do that. You know, you live in a country town. Despite all odds, you're a gay female living in Adelaide, which no doubt wasn't that accepting back then. You're wearing guys' clothes, your Greek background, like all these things. But regardless, you're like, no, I reckon this is going to happen.
Yeah.
And why I hear that is that there's always this uncanny belief with everyone I speak to who's done well, where they believe it. And myself, I have always felt the same. So when I was younger and I was a promoter, I was very behind the scenes, but I always had this idea in my head. I'm like, I don't know why, but I think that eventually one day I'll become famous. You know? Like, and then like now, like, you know, things are happening in my career, but I'm just like, and everyone's like, well, is it blowing your head off? I'm like, no, really, because in my head when I was fucking 7, I thought it. Yeah, like
This is the plan, right?
yeah. So hearing you say it, it's just like it just freaks me out. Everybody says the same thing.
It's so, because like what are you doing when you're a kid? You're daydreaming, right? And you're thinking about these things and you're fantasizing. And everyone wants to be famous. Like well, most kids want to be famous.
The
I have
sport or
kids
music
now.
or whatever it is,
I want to be known. I want to do stuff. I want to be, I want people to love me. Basically, that's it. I want people to love me. And, I think it's you have to have such undying self-belief in yourself, because there's going to be people that are being like, you're a piece of shit, you suck, whatever. And, I've had plenty of that. That's cool. I get it. I'm in on the joke too. This is the funny thing. Like a lot of times when people will see me DJing and I'm having so much fun up on the stage, because I want to be having as much fun as you guys, right? Just going off. But I'll see people like put their camera up and I know, because I'm not stupid, in my head, they're going, what is this person? Is this a guy? Is it a girl? What's this fat bitch doing on stage? Running? And you know what? I'm in on the joke that I would do that too probably. I'd be like, I can't work it out. But I tell you what, and this has happened so many times where I'll DJ, I'll make you fall in love with me because I am in on the joke and I do get it. I'm not stupid. Like I know what I must look like, because when you're unhinged and you're having the best time and you're like not worrying about what anyone else is thinking, it's really confronting for people to watch, right? It can be confronting.
But they love it.
Well, hopefully. I mean, I'm still here. So,
Exactly, they do,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, that's fine. That's good.
It's a weird one. Like when I film, when I'm out in public and people like will see me and they'll like make comments or, they'll yell out or whatever.
Yeah.
And in my head, I'm like, you fucking go home and watch, like sit on your phone for 2 hours watching content from
Exactly.
people like me making it. But when you see
Exactly.
me doing it in real life, you're like, look at this guy. Like, what an idiot.
Yeah.
And I was like, then you go home for 7 hours and watch YouTube and people doing the same thing.
Exactly. Because you got to make yourself look like a fool, especially now because everyone's got phones and doing it.
Yeah.
It's like that's part of like the confidence of being able to put yourself out there. And it's fucking hard. Like people get hate all the time and it's horrible. I don't know how that's going to be curbed, but I think that, I have learned to have a thick skin from an early age.
I had someone say something to me the other day. It's like no one ever rags out someone doing, having a go who's successful. Yeah, and so like only people that have a crack at people or tease people are people who aren't doing well.
That's
like
right.
You've never meet like some massive artist who's like, oh, that guy's an idiot. Like they don't do that. They're
I
like,
tell
oh,
you
good on
what,
him.
the massive artists, because I've met plenty of them on tour and stuff, they're the nicest people. They're the most down to earth. And you see them having to interact with so many people. And I know for me, I'd be like, oh my God, leave me alone. But they're all like, no, that's fine. It's lovely. And they've got this real air about them that is just so, I guess it's calm, you know what I mean? And it's not, you're right, exactly right. They're successful, they've got it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's that self-belief and knowing that they have,
Yeah. So when you first come back to Melbourne, right, you're talking about before you said you started to like attend like clubs in Melbourne.
Yeah.
What were some of the clubs that you were attending?
I was going to Planet of the Apes with DJ Peril.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, wow.
Because that was at Scuba, which was on Lonsdale Street. That was a big one for me. I went I think it was a Wednesday night or something, to the point where I actually made a mixtape and gave it to Peril and was like, I really want to be a DJ. It took me everything to go up to him and was like, I really want to be a DJ. Will you listen to this? And obviously he probably never did, but you know what I mean? It's like, it was just, the fact that he knew who I was because I was going there so much, and I'd go up behind the decks and she's like, what song is this? What song is this? Because you didn't have Shazam then. You had none of that there. So that was a really massive one. I went to a lot of stuff that Dexter played as well. Like I remember going all the DMC championships, obviously. And then Three Faces for the gay stuff and like a lot of different stuff. But I was still like very heavy into acting. So I was really serious about my craft. There wasn't a lot of going out for me.
Yeah, okay.
So once I became a DJ, that's when it really kind of, I kind of got into that mode of, well, if I'm working, I'm going out, right? So, it's that thing. But, I never really I was never a rave head. Like I got into that really late. Everything I got into real late because I was very focused on the career.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the DJ career. I was super focused on that too. I don't know why, because I was having so much fun. But it was something like I was like, I don't ever want to have a day job. I don't ever want to have to sit in a desk. I just want to be doing this. How can I figure out how to do this and do it full time? And then not only that, let's have 8 gigs a week. How can I do it for like 2 gigs a week? How can I do it 1 gig a month? You know, doing that kind of trajectory.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you remember what your first gig was that you actually played?
Oh, mate. It was pretty bad. I played it. So my mate Chris Gill, who runs Northside Records, he ran a soundtrack night at the Lounge. Yeah, I used to go to the Lounge a lot too. At the Lounge, and he asked me to come play because he got all the record store owners to come play their records. And so he's like, you want to DJ, don't you? I was like, yeah, all right. And he goes, come on the stage. So that was the first time vinyl, put the needle on, shaking like a motherfucker. And then once I got into it, that's when I realised, I was like, oh, yes, stage, music, me, acting. Oh, okay, I get this. And so from there, it just kind of snowballed. But I was never playing hip-hop gigs. I never played R&B. That came so much later. So I was playing a lot of because there was no hip-hop clubs. It was more magazine launches, rock clubs, and I was kind of the only hip-hop artist kind of thing.
Because the first time I saw you, right? So this is where I was getting to. There's 2 kind of questions from this. The first time I saw you, it would have been like 2005 or 4, and it was Honky Tonks, and it was in that grandma room.
Yeah.
So then when you, down the track, became like this humongous R&B DJ, I'm like, I'm positive she was playing house back then.
Yeah.
So I was right.
Yeah, I was playing a lot more kind of hip-hop house stuff, acid stuff, like Blog House.
Yep.
A lot of Blog House, because that came in probably, that was more around the time of Sneaker Freaker, because we started doing Favela Rock. You know Favela Rock?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Yeah. So that was kind of an institution for my crew of people at Miss Libertines, and it was this once a month on a Saturday.
Sick venue. That's like underrated venue.
Best. It was so good.
Yeah.
I mean, because now it's apartments or something.
Yeah, I remember you
restaurant.
walked through and then you walked outside and you were inside, but it felt like you were outside.
outside.
And Can't Say was there too. That was another real
Yeah,
famous
Can't
one there.
Say.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, I was playing a lot of different stuff, but that was kind of the trajectory for me always was learn how to play everything so you can get booked for everything. And so when the R&B Friday stuff came up or the R&B stuff, that was a whole new world for me. I didn't realise it was a whole huge kind of demographic of people that I'd never played to. I mean, I've been to like Silvers and Next Blue, with Seth and all those guys, MYD. And then all of a sudden now I'm playing on lineups with them going, oh, they've been playing this whole time, this stuff.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Right. Oh, okay. And when I was at Favela, I'd play this 1 hour set at 12 to 1. It was always my set. And I was playing like everything I play now, like 50 Cent, Mariah Carey, all that stuff, party jams, because I thought everyone else was too cool to play it. So I thought, I'll play it. But what I realised was years later was everyone said to me, no, you fucking rinsed every song and we had to play other shit. I went, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So I didn't know that at the time. It's so daft of me, but obviously, whatever, it worked. So that kind of became my signature sound then, because I realised really quickly after working at Dixon's Recycled Records, which is a record store that you buy secondhand, so you have to know every genre. I got a job at HMV in the hip-hop department as a hip-hop buyer and manager, and it was in with the trance and the dance stuff, and that was the first time I'd really heard commercial music. And I went, oh, okay, what's this? Maybe I can play this out. And that's when I realised, oh, fuck, I can play to bigger audiences with this kind of music because it's so friendly. But I can mash it up with all the stuff that I kind of know as well. So it's a little different.
Yeah,
it's not so, by the book.
Yeah, and that's it's funnily enough, the first time I ever went to Honky Tonks, you were playing in that front room. So
Right.
that was the first time I saw it. And I remember they had like the McDonald's, it was like the cutout
Yes.
for the bottom of the feet.
Yeah.
And it was that grandma room.
Yeah.
And I walked in and it was like, you were legitimately the first DJ I saw in there. And then I went to
Wow.
the toilets and then there was, I think it was Bang Gang at the time in the front
Yeah.
back room. And I was like, this is fucking awesome.
Yeah,
And it was the
so
mix
good.
of everything, the culture, the people, the music. And from memory, I'm pretty sure it was party jams you were sort of doing in the front room.
Yeah, always party jams. I was always known to do party jams because I think I like to be able to sing and dance to it all myself. So I was like, if I can't sing and dance to it, how are they going to? So I was
Yeah.
like, that's my jam, literally, party jam. So I was like very, it's funny because I got asked to do a Triple J mix-up maybe in 2017 and I hadn't gone back to any of my vinyl because I don't listen to radio. I don't really know what they play on Triple J, and here I am having to do a mix-up. So I went back to all my vinyl and decided to play an all-vinyl set and went, oh my God, I used to be so cool. What happened? You know what I mean? 'Cause
Yeah.
if you want to start playing the bigger gigs, you got to start, playing a little bit more cheesier. And, as long as I know what my roots are underneath it all, but I was just like, yeah, fuck, I used to be really cool. What happened?
I reckon you're still really cool.
Oh, thanks, bud. Thanks.
So what were the other, like you told Miss Libertines, I just said Miss Honky Tonks.
Yeah.
What other venues were you playing pre the next part of your
Yeah,
journey?
so that was like, you're right, Can't Say, Rats. So a lot of stuff with Hugh Waters, all his parties, Fashion Keyboard. And then I started doing a lot of gay stuff too. Obviously, I was playing Poof Doof for a long time. And then there was Closet.
Still around?
Closet's still around. Yeah. So I played the first ever Closet party, which is awesome. And then, a lot of stuff in Sydney too. But I tell you what, my memory is like a sieve now because I can't, it's just been so many gigs.
Yeah, for sure.
So many. And I was playing, as I said, like 8 gigs a week sometimes, like for years.
So when you first came back into Melbourne and you started playing in like the gay scene and stuff like that, traditionally like the party tunes and the sort of, I guess, R&B or hip hop, it's not really what you think of when you think of like gay clubs, right? It's like house music. These days it's fucking techno.
Yeah.
So how was that received? Like when you were playing there, because it's kind of weird. Like it's not really your traditional kind of
gay music, right?
Yeah.
No, it was funny because I was playing at this place on, what was it, Punt Road, called The Star, and it was Drag Kings. So I'd play in between all the Drag Kings. And I was just playing what I had. Again, it was all the music I could sing and dance to, like R&B, hip-hop stuff. And you were really surprised by the amount of girls that were into hip-hop, And I think that Sveta, who's DJ Sveta in Sydney, is a really big DJ there, understood that because she came over quite a bit. And she was a music director for Mardi Gras. So she was like, I'm going to book you and play like the Hi-Fi bar next to the Horden because I reckon this is going to work. And the Hi-Fi bar was a packs of like 2,500 or something, I'm pretty sure. And we jammed it. Like it was jammed. And it was so good to be able to have a point of difference than the techno and eating your face off. You could come over and sing, I'm everyday people. Just be all lovey and shit and like, play some party and had some crunk and stuff on stage. And it really worked. And I was surprised as anybody.
Yeah.
Because I was like, holy shit, yeah. Because I didn't grow up in the gay scene. I wasn't really part of the gay scene. I've never really been part of a scene except really the sneaker scene. Like even the DJ scene. I don't hang out with any DJs. I'm not really part of it. I just do my own stuff. I'm not really, I don't know. I've always been like that, being kind of a soloist, as you say.
Yeah, I think it's your big personality. Like, I've been doing it for 20 years, but I always knew who you were.
Yeah.
And those different times where you were at different gigs that we did, but it was like you kind of, now we talk about it, it was like your big personality. Yeah. Like everyone's like, plays everything, gets the dance floor going, massive personality.
Yeah.
And I guess that's probably the next reason why you walked into the sort of the mushroom world and then you went on to do the kind of massive part of your career, which is the R&B Live.
Yeah.
How did that all go from you? Because you really were like kind of like I would say like a subculture queen. And you were playing all these super fucking cool venues. Like all the venues you were talking about, from Closet to Miss Libertines to Honky Tonks, they were like, they were the best of the best back then.
Best of the best, yeah.
And then you were sort of underground, but like ahead of your game there. Then you blow up onto a way bigger stage and you start doing like very commercial-esque stuff, but traveling Australia, even the world, meeting all these sort of people. How did that transition happen?
Well, I'll back it up because I think it started through doing a lot of Jewish weddings, because I decided at one point that I didn't want to be in clubs anymore. I felt like I was aging myself out. I felt like there was so many female R&B DJs coming up that would look cuter than me, that were playing just the same shit as me, that were getting booked because they had all their friends coming, and I wasn't being able to bring friends because all my friends are starting to get older and don't want to go to the club every week. So I felt like I was kind of aging myself out. So I made this decision. Well, actually, it thrust itself upon me that I got asked to do this one Jewish wedding, which I profusely said, I'm not going to do weddings. I'm not a wedding DJ. I don't want to do it. And then they just kept offering me higher and higher rate to come to do this party. And I was meant to be in Rainbow Serpent, and they're like, no, we'll pay for you to come back. You got to play. And I was like, okay, you wore me down. All right, I'll do it. And I tell you what, it was the best thing I could have done, because I rocked up and it's like 3,000 people just going off. Like those parties are next level, those weddings. And just the nicest people. And they were just so awesome to like work with, all word of mouth, because it was like, I remember I took my partner at the time with me, and because she was studying Jewish culture, and so she really wanted to come to this party. And she ended up having to give out like serviettes because I didn't have cards at the time, because people kept coming, he's wonderful. What does he do? How does he know that? I'm like, he's a she and she's this age, blah, blah, blah. But they just were so like flummoxed about who I was that it then set off this kind of trajectory of doing all these amazing weddings for these really high profile people. And from that, Channel 10 publicists were there. They started getting me in to play all the Channel 10 events, got all the Logie stuff. And I then kind of switched into being corporate. But I remain kind of being able to sell myself as this cool DJ in the corporate world that you're seeing more and more happen now, right?
Yeah.
You see Peking Duck playing every corporate event. You see all these really cool DJs doing all these corporate events. I was doing it way before it was cool because I knew I wanted to buy a house. I wanted to do this full time, and I wasn't going to be able to do that in a club for like $100 a week, $100 an hour. So that's where that kind of all started, and I started understanding more commercial sound and like how to keep people on a dance floor. And then the R&B Friday stuff, as it was called back then, came about because the brand grew so huge, and they needed another DJ. You know, they needed another DJ to go to all these club nights, because they have club nights all around Australia as well, not just the big party at the end of the year. And you know, Horizon was doing it all by himself, and he couldn't be there. He couldn't be everywhere. So they got another girl in, which didn't work out, and then they went to the drawing board and went, "We need another girl. We want a female. We want someone that knows they're going to bring the party." And then I think maybe it was
Joey.
Someone said my name. Matt's seen me play at a lot of weddings too. And I've actually played like a lot of parties that Matt run, like Hang Time, all those things. So everyone knew of me, and they hit me up. And I'm like, "What are you doing on Fridays?" And at the time, I was booking Strike bowling because that was my thing. I was doing Strike and booking it. Like with Dom Dollar, right? He was playing at Strike. We all started there. So I was like, yeah, I'll give it a go. And I did a couple of the parties, and then didn't hear anything for months. And then all of a sudden the shows started, and they're like, "Oh, we need to have a conversation with you because we want you to come and do these shows." And I went, because in my head I was like, hang on, Mushroom. Because I've been, back in the day, I loved Kylie. I loved all the pop stars. And I was like, if I can get on Mushroom, that would be the dream. If I could be managed by them. So I kind of was like, that's why I was going to do it, to get my foot in there. And then that ended up happening. And I started with R&B Vine Days, which was in the Vines. And, you know, that was run by Day on the Green. And they were like, who is this DJ? Can she play this music? We want her to play. So then I started doing all the Day on the Green stuff with Florence and the Machine and James Blunt. Like, you know, I'm an R&B DJ, right? But I can play everything. So, yeah, then it just started snowballing from there, because they've got Mushroom events there. They've got all these events like AFL, the cricket, all this stuff. And I started doing all of it, and it just went bananas.
Matt.
And that's Paul Barbaro, because he was my manager at the time, and he was pushing for all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because he believed in me, and he knew me from back in the day too. And he's like, you're a professional. At the end of the day, you're going to rock up, you're going to do the gig, you're going to do what we ask you to do. And you know what your job is. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul's exactly like that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, great guy.
And I wanted to make him proud.
Yeah, for sure.
Always, you know.
And that sentiment, it's funny because I was actually talking to Paul Barbaro in 2020 maybe, and he was like, would you ever work for a company? Because I've always been like a solo sort of lone wolf, independent promoter. And I said, honestly, I'd probably only Mushroom. And it's funny because you say, because it's the same thing. Like, I'm like a music frother.
Yeah.
But second to that, I'm like a history frother, hence why I'm doing
Absolutely.
what I do now. Michael Gudinski's the GOAT. Without him, this whole fucking industry probably doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
So it's funny to hear you say that, because I feel the exact same about them. Like, I'm like, that's the one, yeah? Like, that's the Australian
if you're
culture.
in the industry and you kind of know the ins and outs of like who's there and, you know, and who they're, because I worked in the record store too. I needed to know the labels. I needed to know the artists on the labels. I needed to know all that stuff. So that's been my history from the beginning. And I am a bit of a historian. You know, I love a bit of research and doing all that stuff. So I was very much in the mind of, I want to be signed to Mushroom. And then it happened. And then it just snowballed and it went crazy. And you know what? I was so more than happy to do whatever they wanted me to do. Because at the end of the day, you know, that's my job. It's a job. And
literally, yeah.
You know, I want to keep them happy, and I want to, you know, and I'm happy. I'm still getting this job. I'm getting this opportunity. Because I'm not young. I'm not a young person in this life, in this career, in this scene. So to be able to kind of have that second go at it, it's not lost on me.
And a way bigger level too, like a huge level, yeah.
I mean, I'm like, why couldn't this have happened when I was 20 and I had all the energy?
Yeah, but I reckon sometimes you can't. Yeah, like
I wouldn't have appreciated it.
This is bad from my end, but I'm like, I look at things that I'm doing now, and I'm like, if I was 25 years old, I would have just bended for 3 days.
Absolutely.
And I would have been a piece of shit and lost all the opportunities anyway.
Absolutely.
So I'm
exactly.
Like, I look at it now, I'm like, it had to happen now.
It had to.
Yeah, exactly. But you got the best of both worlds. You got to do all the cool shit back in the day and live through that. And then now you're doing all the major stuff, which is still awesome and cool, but at a higher level. So I reckon that what's that? Black of the berry, sweet of the juice, you know? Like, you had to wait for it to ripen.
Yeah, true. And now I've gotten the opportunity even bigger with, like, I'm doing my own show. So I'm like created a whole show that we're going to sell to the world. And we're starting at the Fringe, at the Adelaide Fringe this year. And I've got, it's called Hey DJ, A History of Hip Hop. It's a history, not the history. Trying not to be Ray Gun here, but so, I've got dancers, I've got breakers, I've got MCs, I've got vocalists. And I mean, anyone that knows me knows that I'm going to come with integrity and do something because it's, this is my scene.
Yeah.
I've been in it a long time. I don't want to take the piss. And, this is my opportunity now to have my own stage show, which is like, I'm so excited for. It's going to be bananas.
So corporate gig stuff, you've done some wild ones.
Oof, here we go.
I'll let you say your favourite one, and then there's one that I know about that I want to bring up.
Oh, okay. Oh, Jesus. Favourite corporate?
Not corporate, like favourite kind of random event that isn't a club or a festival, I guess.
I think there was like just after COVID, I got asked to do a gig with the Veronicas, Ben Lee and the Killers. A very company, yeah. So I got to do that, which was so random. So I got to do a VDJ set just before the Killers came out and get them really amped up. And it was just so interesting.
And that was a private gig?
That was a private gig for like I'm going to say mortgage broker.
What a fucking giant
and it
lineup.
Was huge.
That's insane.
Insane. I was like, what the hell? So I got to be side stage just watching the Killers have this like random little gig. Random, not random at all. But I mean, it was, yeah. Some of the things I've ended up at, like, I did the Star in Sydney, the opening for that. And we had like 4 DJs at different posts. And then I got tapped on the shoulder because I was doing my set. Because you had to kind of nod to the next DJ when it was their time to play. It was like you did 2 songs each. And I got this tap on the shoulder and I turn around and it's Leonardo DiCaprio going, hey, I'm not going to do the accent, but hey, we're just going to bring out the special guest now. Love your music. Because I know he loves Tribe Called Quest and hip hop. So I was like, let's play the hip hop. Because everyone else was playing like bangers and stuff. So I was like going hard with the hip hop. And so he goes, we're going to bring out the special guest now if you don't mind. I'm like, oh, no, that's fine. And they just wheel out Stevie Wonder. And I'm like, what the hell is my life? How do I end up here?
That's so sick.
It's like, what? Yeah.
One of the things, right, like you kind of touched on the whole thing you said, the massive lineup you said before, the private gig thing. So this is something that people won't know, right? Like we do in our world. But
yes.
Can you run through how these private gigs go and how big the lineups can be and how no one knows about them? Can you explain that to someone who doesn't even know this world exists?
Well, it's all kind of like, I mean, for me, like with that gig too, like we're sworn to secrecy. So you kind of go, all right, we want you to come to this gig. And then it's all, there's not a lot of information given. You kind of have to figure out what you're doing and just play your part. So we weren't ever told that, like Stevie Wonder was going to come out. No idea that Leonardo was there because I think they were filming Great Gatsby. So those things I'm kind of generally like, I remember getting an email saying I had to be at Government House at 6 a.m. one morning, no questions asked. And I said, well, I can't do that because I need to ask some questions. What is this for? Why? And they said, we really cannot tell you. It's a high security protocol. And I was like, in my head going, what the hell could this be? So you kind of learn not to ask the questions, just rock up. And then is this what you want to know? Like,
yeah, kind of. Yeah, definitely. And then there's probably a second part to it too.
Okay, yeah, because that ended up being Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. And I was like, what? And DJing for them, and I just was like, I just need Harry to come and press the button that has the air horn on it just once. And he was so close, and he was like, I was like, anyway. Go. What's your second part?
So the other one's like, so people don't know, like you have these giant concerts with Peking Duck, for argument's sake, the Killers, you could be Rihanna, and they're in a venue, never advertised, no videos, no photos, and it's paid by some private company.
Yep.
It could be for a private wedding.
Yep.
It could be for a private, end of year party.
Yep.
But this is an industry that exists underneath their kind of like, I guess, the world that normal people see.
Yeah.
Is that these artists who people are paying hundreds of dollars to go visit, or these famous people who are coming here with private fucking security.
Yep.
They're rolling in and they're doing this underground stuff in a sense that no one knows about.
Yes.
That you are luckily to be involved in. You do talk about Leo, you talked about the prince and the princess.
Yep.
You've talked about Stevie Wonder, but these aren't things that I can go check out on YouTube. That's like it's a private gig.
Oh, no. There's no footage allowed, nothing allowed. And I mean, that's kind of why I think I got booked to do the Logie so much too, because for one, I mean, I wasn't really watching a lot of TV even though I was an actor, but that stuff don't impress me much. Oh my God. Shania? Me? No. It doesn't. Like, I know that I'm there to do the job. So I think that that's kind of why I get booked too, because I'm not like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, try and take photos. It's the same thing as like being backstage with Usher or whatever. You know, you don't go up to him and go, hey, can I get a selfie? I've never asked for a selfie. I've never asked for a picture because I understand the kind of like, you know, the protocol. And also, yeah, you got to, there is a lot of stuff that happens that you don't know about.
Yeah, it's like it's not some like, you know, bad stuff, but it's
No.
There's artists that'll come here and then they get paid from a side gig that's on a Wednesday and a Thursday, and
Yeah.
they're getting paid millions sometimes.
Millions.
And you do not know about it.
Yeah.
And it's a whole fucking ecosystem.
And they always need a party DJ to start. And they're like, who can we get?
And sometimes there's artists out there who make more money doing that than they actually do. Like I know, like I actually probably can say it. Actually, no, I won't. One of Australia's biggest, most famous singers of all time. He was retired, but doing these all the time. He was doing like 5 or 6 a year for like Telstra, ANZ, all these secret gigs, and he was getting these massive fees for 15 minutes. And most people wouldn't even know that this even happens.
Oh, it's like my partner too, because she's the entertainment manager at Crown. It's the same thing. Like the budget they have for some of these artists to come in to just do like for their high rollers, you know what I mean? So it all exists, but you don't get to see it, you know.
So who is the most famous people, if you're allowed to talk about it, maybe you're not allowed to, who's some of the most famous people you've met whilst doing that sort of stuff?
Katy Perry, I did well, I guess that wasn't, well, was it? No, it wasn't. It wasn't too private because that was for the firefighters, but it wasn't ever kind of like, it wasn't a ticketed event kind of thing. You kind of had to be a firefighter. That was up at Bright for just before COVID hit.
Katy Perry at Bright.
Yeah, Katy Perry at Bright.
That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, so she did she said she was going to come back and do a fundraiser for the firefighters and get tourism back to Bright. And she did that, and they needed a DJ.
Where'd they do that Katy Perry at Bright?
Well, so there was a infrastructure set up already with like a festival that went there 2 weeks before.
Brighter Days, it's called.
Yes, that's the one. You know the one. And the guys that ran it were like, we'll keep the infrastructure up, come and do the show here. So they all kept their backstage passes from that and were just hanging about backstage. And all Katy Perry's like, security were like, oh, these people. But they couldn't kick them out because that was because of them. They could be there. But it was pretty hilarious. So, yeah. Who have I? Yeah, so there was Leonardo. There's Lachlan Murdoch. We had some really good conversations. I remember being at the Logies and he rocked up. It was like the first year I played and he was like, I was playing at a very kind of bar level because we were in a bar, we weren't in a club. And he came over and he goes, can you turn his music up? And I was like, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm not allowed to. It's the bar. But when he goes, it's fine, turn it up. And I went, I'm sorry, I'm not allowed to. And he goes, turn the fucking music up. And it was Nelly Hot in Here, and he loves Nelly Hot in Here because he went off to that.
Same.
I did a private event for, I don't know if this is famous, but Gary Ablett Jr., which is for his like 30th party. Remember when planking was a thing?
Yeah.
They were all planking on the level 23 at Crown. I was like, what is going on? There's been so many and I've met so many people.
That's the mushroom world.
Huh?
That's the mushroom world, right?
No, this was before mushroom.
Oh, was it really?
This is, Kate, this was all before mushroom. Yeah, this is all, the mushroom stuff is like, no, I mean, that's all like R&B Fridays. Everyone sees that stuff.
Yeah,
like
of course,
the stuff I do for them. That's all just like out there. No private stuff there.
That's cool as that's mad. That's a big list.
Oh, it's phenomenal. It's like, it's pretty stupid. I mean, it's going back to all the way back to me dreaming about these people knowing who I am. It's like insane.
And the backstage thing you said, you touched on before about how Usher, right? You see Usher, you don't run over and ask for a selfie.
Never.
And that's what we call backstage etiquette.
Yeah.
So when you talked about like getting opportunities and stuff, a part of that is that, right? Like when you have to be older is that, when you're allowed to go backstage, if I go to R&B Lives, no doubt the boys would give me a AAA.
Yep.
And the reason why they would give it to me is because they know that I know backstage etiquette and there's these rules.
There's rules, unwritten rules.
Unwritten rules. Can you run through some of the backstage etiquette unwritten rules that we abide by in our industry?
Definitely. Well, definitely one is, don't go talking to the artists and making friends with them and going up in their grill and like asking them questions and fangirling. Definitely don't want that. Look, the less you drink, the better backstage. I mean, you can do whatever you want really, but like for me, I never drink when I'm doing those shows because I just find it's not a good look. Also, I'm on half the time, so I have to be on stage and doing stuff. You know, you always have to know when your cues are. Like, you know, always be available to a stage manager at any time. I think, you know, just also, you know, as an artist, you try and stay in your dressing room, stay away. Just stay out of the way of everyone because there's so many things going on backstage. You don't want to get caught up in the middle of stuff and, you know, and just be decent, I guess. But that's just rule number one, right? And that's sometimes hard to abide by.
Yeah, and I think one of the hardest ones too is like, again, like the rule where you can't take photos with people.
Yeah.
So it's like it's effectively don't be a frother. But
Yeah.
fuck, the amount of times I've like sat next to like Skrillex, Justice, you know, some of the biggest artists that I loved back in the day.
Absolutely.
And I'm standing there like, oh my God.
If only.
And every inch of my bone wants to be like, hey, do you mind if I take a flick? But
Yeah.
you know, if you do, you're likely
out.
you're likely not to get invited back again.
Absolutely. Well, I had one year we had, so my mate Millie is friends with Chris Lilly and she's like, we're going to come through to R&B Fridays. Can you get us some passes? Blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. Blah, blah, go to Paul. I was like, hey, Paul, can I get these tickets for this person? And Chris Lilly's like, yeah. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I've met Chris before through this girl as well. So, you know, we're all cool. But, like, you know, you still like, it's Chris Lilly. Like, I loved Chris Lilly back in the day. Still do. He's a good dude. But anyway, you know, but we had him backstage and side stage. I just remember so many people just trying to get photos. And he wasn't even on the show. He was just there to see. But even like 50 Cent, Black Eyed Peas, all of them, because Summer Heights High was so huge on HBO over there. So they all knew of him. They all knew him. And everyone was like fangirling over him and trying to get photos. And it was just like, we needed to just get him off and into my dressing room kind of thing. Because it was just artists doing it as well sometimes, you know.
What?
I
That's
know.
crazy. But in saying that, you can, but there's got to be the right place. Like I know when
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I remember like Joey Nemo, we talk about him. I've actually had him on the pod.
Yeah.
But there's been times where he's like,
Oh,
would
I
you-"
watched it. It was
Yeah,
good.
yeah. And Joey goes, I was a fucking where was it again? He was Coolio, and he's like,
Yeah.
I saw him walking around. I'm like, what the fuck, Coolio? No, the rules don't talk to him. Then Joey walks up to me and says, would you like to take a photo with Coolio?
Yeah.
He's the manager of the TM. If they do that, you're allowed
You're
to do
all
that.
right. You're
yeah.
good. Absolutely.
But you've got to wait to be invited.
Yes. True.
Yeah.
True.
That Chris, I can't believe people were taking photos with Chris Lee. That is wild.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They were like frothing him. But, you know, I did the wrong thing because that was the year that Janet Jackson was playing. And so I went back up on stage and you had to have a special wristband when Janet was on. No one was really allowed on stage. And for this one night, miraculously, I think I was with Chris, I got this wristband that I could be on stage. Like, unreal. Didn't even think about it. Got on FaceTime with a friend of mine who I know loves Janet Jackson. Was like, oh my God. And then straight away security, get out. And I was like, oh my God, yep. Got the better of me, you know what I mean? And he's like, you fuck up, but you know.
Yeah, and you wake up next day like,
Yeah.
fuck,
Like,
hopefully I don't get in trouble.
That.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my God. Yeah. And that's a lot of it too. You're like, did I do the wrong thing? Am I doing the wrong thing? That's more the stress of it. Because you know you're doing the job right, but it's just the etiquette of it.
Yeah, the
You just
etiquette,
have
that's the
to
best
know.
term, hey? And you're waiting for that call to be like, hey, just letting you know, you shouldn't have asked this artist for a You're like, fuck.
Yep.
So
Yep.
it's like, you can't, and it's scary because like I'll go friends always want backstage passes and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't because I don't know you're going to allow these rules. And if you do ask for a photo or you do something like this, I'm going to get in trouble and then I'm not going to get passes next time.
Absolutely. And
And so-
my demeanor changes too when I'm backstage with my friends. Like I am on such high alert and they're like, just chill out, bro. I'm like, no, I know this is all fun to you. This is my job.
Yeah.
And it means so much to me. Please don't fuck it up.
It's
please.
also so cool when you do get to take them. But I'm like,
Yeah.
at the same time, my mate's like, how do you learn? I'm like, I don't know. It's just like an unspoken law. No one teaches you.
No,
You've just got to figure it out.
Absolutely. Absolutely right. And I think also being older too and just knowing
Yeah,
better,
true.
just going, nah, I'm good.
So let's get into R&B lives, right?
yeah, here we go.
You've played
Fridays
some
live.
massive fucking audiences. What's the biggest audience you've done for R&B live?
We did Marvel Stadium. I think we hit 60,000 or 62,000.
How was that?
It was out of control. I mean, you know, and the thing is with me, because I'm playing in between all the artists, I'm like, you know, 8 minutes here, 20 minutes there, off, 10 minutes on. And it's just always up, down, up, down. So my cortisol was just all over. I was out, like, don't know what's going on. So it's exhilarating and exhausting all at once. It's unbelievable. Like you dream of that shit, right? And it's great because when you go and do sound check, you can see the emptiness. And then, like, you know, when you come in and there's just that roar, the roar of people was just insane. But I've always thought about it like, you know, when you walk off stage, I don't think a lot of people think about this. all those people are looking to you and all that energy is directed at you. What do you do with that when you come off stage? You know, you're taking all that in. So it's kind of like, I can understand why people probably do drugs or drink, because it's just, it's too much.
Yeah.
Like I'm good at like meditation and just chilling out and zoning out, and I have a lot of energy, as you know, so I can like go into the reserves. But doing that, like, you know, we do 3 shows back to back each weekend and traveling in between and not a lot of sleep because there's after parties as well. You're wrecked. Your body is wrecked.
You get like I'm not that I've ever done it 60,000, but when I've gone on tour and done stuff, another one that people don't talk about is that after like 3 days, you have this like cortisol crash.
Yes.
You have a cortisol crash, and you kind of feel depressed because you've gone on this high thing. You feel amazing. I call it like school camp syndrome.
Yes.
So you know when you're younger, you go to school camp, like best time ever,
and then you come home.
Yeah, it's like you do that, and then you're like, what does my life mean?
What do
now?
I do
Like,
now?
I've got no natural high. Like, and the other one you're talking about is that sucking the crowd. Like I go to a lot of gigs, heaps of gigs. And I'm older, right? So, and everyone's like, oh, don't care about this, or, you know, are you too old? And I'm like, bro, I'm just sucking energy from humans. And I'm like, I don't have to be on anything nowadays or drink alcohol anymore. And I'm like, because I just feel it. And if you're on stage or you're doing whatever, it's like, it's hard to explain unless you've been there. If you're running a show, participating, you're doing the lighting, it doesn't matter what it is.
Exactly.
There is an energy force that pushes forward.
It's
and
insane.
You take it, and it gives you something that is hard to explain.
It's very hard to explain. I've had people try and give me drugs and go, have this, have that. And I went, I don't need to. That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
You don't understand what that does to you and does to your body. Like the euphoria that you feel. And also because you're doing what you love too. And this is your dream, right? You go back to 7-year-old Maria. And like even better for me was, my dad always said, because he'd drive me everywhere to all the things I needed to go to, calisthenics, gymnastics, whatever. You know, as a dad, right? Taking girls everywhere to do their little dreams, right? And he would always say to me in the car, one day I'll be your roadie. One day we'll get matching jackets. I'll be your roadie. And he came to R&B Fridays and I said to the roadies, all right, you're going to put my dad to work. Because, you know, he's always wanted to be a roadie. And, you know, he came up and they were like, oh, Jim, come on, right? And he's like, I'm too old, whatever. And he just looked at me and he goes, I can't believe you did it. And I said, can you believe being a dickhead paid off? Like, you know, because they would always be like, this kid, we don't know what to do with her. You know what I mean? She's got too much energy. And, you know, it's, I don't know, I just drifted from that bloody question, but the cortisol come down. I remember like my first R&B Fridays, I was living by myself. So I came home to no one. And I just was like, what? You know, I didn't know what to do with myself. And the depression is real.
It's like a come down.
It's a full come down.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember calling Paul just like in tears. He goes, what has happened? I went, I don't know, what's going on? And he's like, oh yeah, R&B Fridays. Come down.
Because I get the pre-part where I feel sick and I'm like, why the fuck am I doing this?
Yes.
And then I get the point of where it's happening and I'm like, this is the greatest thing in the world. I can't believe this is happening.
Yes.
I'm getting goosebumps right now thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then I get the next day where I'm like, I get teary-eyed because I'm so like overwhelmed about it. And I'm like, man, I love everybody.
Yeah.
And then come Wednesday, I'm like, I crash. Yeah. Like,
well, yeah, right.
Then I start organising something again or picking another gig. Yeah. Like,
exactly.
It's almost an unhealthy addiction. That's
exactly.
natural.
Well, I had to find strategies in order to kind of bring that come down down slower and also not get too high on stage because I was just fucking going so high all the time. Because you can't, how can you not? You're like, there's Naughty by Nature, there's Salt and Pepper. Like, I was playing their records when they were brand new. Like, what is my life?
How
and
is
they
it,
know me.
Yeah, exactly. True. They know you.
Yeah.
How is it meeting all those people who you grew up and they were
That's
sort of
what I
like
mean.
your heroes? How was that?
It's crazy. I mean, a lot of them are like, they're like, who is this person on stage? They don't know who I am at the beginning of the tour. And you see the trajectory of it like over the like week that you're touring with them and they're like, I have no idea who you are. Then they realize, oh, you're the person that's playing all the music in between the sets. Then they have sometimes come out to watch the other artists and while they're waiting, they're watching you. And then by the end of it, they're like, oh, you know your fucking shit. Oh, you know what you're fucking doing. Because what I'm doing is bringing, you know, and I do everything live. A lot of these acts are kind of just coming in with like a preset, like especially with the visuals and stuff. Like I understand you've got to have like some pre-recorded stuff for like visuals, but like a lot of artists kind of have to have like, I guess not a backup, but like what ends up happening is they get so exhausted and they've gone so hard in the beginning that they end up just putting the mic out to the people to kind of play this. You sing the song because I'm too exhausted kind of thing. And I'm like, no, I'm doing the show every night and I don't care. Like, and I'm giving that same energy every night. And, you know, in 8 sets, it's absolutely exhausting, but you have, what was the question again? See, what are you doing to me? I've got Danny raved.
No, I was
Danny
saying-
ranted.
You got ranted.
I got ranted.
No, I was saying like, what was it like growing, like what being now part of these people who,
Yes. So they don't know who I am. And then by the end of it, they're like, oh, I remember Naughty by Nature were like, I came out the front one time to watch somebody perform and they were there and I had like a Phillies jersey on. They're like, what do you know about Phillies? And I went, well, what? Questlove, D'Angelo, Jazzy Jeff. And they went, oh. I said, oh, I know what you're thinking. One, you think I'm really young. I'm not. Like, I'm like your age. And two, like, I've been doing this a long time, kind of know my shit. And then they kind of go, oh, okay. And then you start talking to them about music, which is the one thing I love the most about being on tour with artists, especially the UK artists too, because they're real musicians. They love their music. It's just getting into the nitty gritty of music and like talking shit with them about it. You know, because this is what I grew up with the record store and stuff like that. So, you know, and then they're like, oh, she does know her shit. Okay. And then like the next day they'll come to you, like Naughty by Nature comes to the dressing room knocking on, the three of them, they're so cute. And they're like, hey, Mafia, we got all this merch for you. We really love you. We think you're awesome. I'm like, oh, that's so nice. Oh, my God. And now, like, if I'm like, hey, well, I was talking to KG at Naughty by Nature who wants to do a song with me. We want to do some music together and stuff. I'm like, holy fucking shit. Like, you know, he produced all my Queen Latifah's, Janae, all these people. And I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, mad.
No, nice. Okay, let's go.
So of all these massive artists you've worked with
Yeah.
R&B live especially, do you have like a favourite? Do you have a favourite artist? Or
Well,
someone you built the best relationship
Yeah,
with?
that was Fat Man Scoop,
Yeah.
right? Like he was my brother because we toured together. Like we were tour managed with Joe together, so we went everywhere together. And you know, the kindest, most sweetest guy, and the stories were insane. Like I remember being in a van at like 2 a.m. in the morning with Siddy, who's Ashanti's DJ, and they were just talking shit about growing up in Brooklyn with Biggie and Tupac. They were there. And I'm just like, what? You know, this little white girl just sitting listening to all this stuff. And they were like, you know, and they're like, Yo Mafia, blah, 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 and just involving me in the conversation. And like Scoop always made sure I was okay. He always made sure I was getting treated good and that I was all good and like, you know, that everyone paid respect to me. You know, he was like, you know, Yo Mafia is she's a real shit. You know, he always went out of his way to do that because a lot of people, there's a lot of stuff going on and everyone's got their egos and stuff, and he just always was so down to earth and just like, what a fucking loss. Like seriously, just so devastating because, you know, he made that tour for me. He made it so much easier for me too because I had someone to count on because we were both kind of like doing all the kind of in-between stuff and it was very same energy field. And he'd make me talk to all his girlfriends. He'd be like, yo, talk some sense into it. I'd be like, oh, don't involve me, mate. Well, I loved it. It was unreal. I was like, tell me more. What's going on?
Give me the juice.
Get us the juice. Get us goss. Yeah. No, he's awesome. So, yeah, R.I.P.
Yeah, R.I.P. definitely. Do you have a favourite tour story or craziest yarn on the R&B live one that you can share?
Oh, God. Let me think about that. Because, why didn't I think you were going to ask this? Craziest story. Oh, shit. I think the best story is like we chartered a flight with all the whole tour. So we chartered like a Qantas flight and so everyone was on it, and it was like, everyone's going, it's like Soul Plane. It was just like a full massive party and only us that were on that plane knew what happened. You know what I mean? And we had Scoop come over the loudspeaker. He was like our steward for the night and he was going, what happens on this plane stays on this plane. And I was like, woo. And it's like, we've had no sleep. It's like 2 a.m. We're chartering a flight to get to Perth or somewhere. And it was just absolute mayhem. So I can't tell you the ins and outs of it, but I can tell you I was involved and yeah, it's pretty nuts. Like
who else was on the plane?
Everyone. So everyone from that tour. So that was that, what year was that? It was Jay Sean, Shaggy, who was the, I'm trying to remember who the lead headliner was because even they were on it and usually the headliner, you know.
The 50 or was it Shantian?
No, it was it Kelly Rowland? Oh my God. There's been so many tours that I've done that I'm like, which tour was that?
Yeah, I get you. Yeah,
which tour was that? Because there's just so much going on. But like, the after parties got really raucous, like super raucous. That's where the party's at because it's like, you know, everyone wants to let their hair down, but everyone wants to jump on the decks, and you're like, okay, so you're a DJ now, come on through. But like, you know, I remember like Boys to Men I was in the photo pit with my girlfriend and one of them was singing to my girl and I was like, nah, man, that's my girl. And he's just so confused because he doesn't know what's going on because she's like really tall and statuesque and gorgeous. Like, how am I with this, you know, kind of. And he comes down and gives her a rose. I went, keep moving, mate. Keep moving. And he's just like, oh. And then we see him at the after party. He's like, came over to me and goes, no disrespect, man. I went, that's all good. That's fine. I just eyes off, thank you.
Because that was my next thing I was going to say. You got all these artists, right, mishmash, hanging out together.
Yeah.
Is there drama or is most of the time everyone get along?
Nah, everyone gets along. Everyone is super like chill. I mean, Matt's created such an incredible thing there, and Paul and Trav at Mushroom. Like it's such a well-oiled machine now that everyone just, you know, and they foster that kind of community. Like we all come together. We all, like I remember in the first year, I wasn't part of it. I mean, Horizon was, and Khalees brought everyone over. She had an Airbnb and got everyone over and cooked them dinner for the night, and they just all hung out like, you know, just normal people kind of thing. So yeah, there's no real dramas. I just remember like a lot of the DJs that would come on during my set because we all shared the DJ booth kept closing my laptop, which was fucking up my visuals, and it was just like trying to get that. Like that's not really a drama, but it's just like it was never the artist that would cause a problem. It was just the kind of like the hanger-oners, you know?
I get you.
You know, which is not
Normal, yeah.
Yeah.
So last question before I wrap
Sure.
it up, and this is kind of a random one, which I very highly doubt you know that I know.
Yeah.
Greek girl growing up. There's a famous Greek guy, you know, who's been over TV for the last 10, 12 years for MasterChef, George Columbaris.
Yeah.
I heard that you played his wedding. How was that?
Well, I got flown to Greece to play his wedding. So I was originally playing for like 2 hours, ended up playing for about 5 hours because it just went off like a motherfucker. It was insane. On the top of a hill looking over this in Athens, looking over the Mediterranean. It was insane. And then this woman comes over to me. She's like, grabs my hand. She goes, you're amazing. I love you. And I look up and it's Nigella Lawson. And I'm like, what the thank you. You're amazing too. And she's like, no. I want you to play my party. I went, play whatever party you want. This was a 3-day event, this thing.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, we ended up going to this bar. The second night after the wedding, we had like what was the party? It's like I don't know, congratulations party in a castle and stuff. And some guys that were there were like, come to this other party with us. We go to this other party. Well, what's this other party? And it's called a steki, and it's like this Greek party where these people would like buying $10,000 these trays cost of carnations and just throwing them at the stage at the singer, just going off. Like, I'm like, this guy's standing in the stage like with this like mound of carnations around him. Every guy that was there, somebody told me, was with a hooker. So it was like Kardashian. The bottles of vodka that were coming were out of control. It just was a mental party, like insane. Like,
when Nigella Lawson was watching you DJ,
Yes.
did you think to yourself, or did you actually take the moment to say, hey babe, watch me cook?
look at my microwave, eh? What you call it? Microwave. No, you know what? It's funny because she was like, we went the next night that we were at this like party together. We're just sitting in a corner chatting, and like I actually became quite good friends with her. Like I actually count her as a friend now. She's caught up with me in Sydney, and like I introduced her to Craig David's manager, and he was just it was so bizarre. Anyway, we were having like a chat off away from everybody, and she's telling me, because I was telling her about how I'd broken up with my partner and it was really hard, blah blah. And she's like, oh, I was at this awards party and I was chatting to Ellen and she was telling me about her girlfriend. I'm like, is she talking about the Ellen? And then she's like, yes, Ellen DeGeneres, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm just having a casual conversation with Nigella about these people. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah,
and again,
crazy.
what is my fucking life, right?
I was at LAX with my partner, right? And I saw Ellen DeGeneres.
Right.
And she was there, and I'm not a big fan of Ellen.
No.
And we're at LAX.
I don't think anyone is anymore.
Yeah, she's been cancelled, eh?
Yeah.
And she walked down, and I was like, oh, what the fuck? Is that Ellen DeGeneres? And my wife loves her. And she full froze. Like, you know, people say like starstruck or whatever.
Yeah.
She just like looked at her and I was like, why is she not reacting? Like she didn't. And then she walked through the private little door and she's like, oh my God. And so I came back too. And she's like, I can't believe that was Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah,
because
you can't believe they're real, right?
Yeah.
It's like, how are they real? And to like hang out with, Nigella, who my mum absolutely adored and loved. It's these moments. And you go, oh, they are real.
Yeah, no, they are.
They are
actually
real. Usher,
yeah.
oh, he is real. Oh, Janet, she is real. It's like, holy shit.
Insane.
Insane.
So we'll have to end it up there. We normally do an hour. I think we went an extra 10 over that because we started just firing more and more crazy stories.
Thank you so much for having me, man.
I want you to keep collecting them. So next time we sit down, we can go do another hour and 10 minutes of fucking wild stories.
I'm so used to not telling any of my stories. I'm very private about my stuff because, you know, that's how I keep my job.
Bad place to be sitting here.
I know, shit. I was like, all right, how much can I tell?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that's always the case. I always love the wrap up afterwards where I get the other 40% of stories that people can't tell.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm pretty sure my producer does too.
Oh, he's there. I didn't even see him there. You're so quiet. Well,
so afterwards, he gets the wildest and craziest yarns after. He gets the BTS of the BTS.
Oh, shit. Here we go. That's the real story. When's that podcast coming out?
Unfortunately, never.
Uncensored.
So thank you so much for coming down,
Thanks for
Mafia.
having me, Danny.
Thanks for being a legend. Thanks for being a part of our industry that we love. Thanks for being.
Thanks for booking me.
Yeah, well, thank you
Hello
for playing
Sunshine
for me.
last year. Yeah,
and thanks
sick.
for just being you, I guess. Like, that's all I got to say. So
Oh, that's nice.
you're a legend.
Oh, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you
Cheers,
for coming
buddy.
down. Bye.
Peace. Bye.
Yeah, that was
Oh, that was awesome.